Hi everyone, welcome back to the Couch Buddies, and today we have Witch Hunting Bears.
We're going on a magic carpet ride.
And we have a lot more, so stay tuned, we'll be right back. So let's get this show on the road. We're back again to talk about nice games, and we're going to talk about the N64 again. We have to bring this console a lot more often to the couch, and I'm going to talk about an iconic game that I'm sure everyone played, and if you haven't, just go play it because you don't deserve to play anything else before you play this. It's a must play, it's an iconic game, and probably one of the best games that ever came out. I'm of course talking about the '96 release of Mario 64 on the N64 console. This game came out with the console and it is brilliant. It's a fantastic game that everyone, and I mean everyone, should play. This was the game that brought Mario to the 3D era. This game was 3 years in the making, was directed by Shigeru Miyamoto, and he started designing the game in the Super Nintendo era. So you can imagine how long he was thinking about this. Then the game was awesome. You had the first slightly open world. Well, you had that static area where you had the princess castle, and you just had to rescue the princess. Wow, the story changed so much. The same thing as always.
Yeah. And rescue the princess from a castle, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But
right,
no, you basically roam the castle. You can go to the several floors to the basement. You also have the booze mansion, which is awesome. It's on a cage. You have to evolve a bit in the game to get there. But the game was quite brilliant, and it still is. And everyone should play it. And Nintendo actually has this on the eShop for a limited time with the other Marios like Sunshine and Galaxy. You should get this one. Get this anywhere you can, because it's awesome.
I played this game on emulation actually recently.
Yeah.
I never owned an N64, and I don't think that I've ever played this game on the N64.
You should.
I think I played it later on, either on ported versions or on emulation, to be honest.
Yeah.
But one of the things that actually about this game is really good is that nowadays with emulation you can actually upscale this to higher resolutions, and the game still looks absolutely fantastic.
Awesome.
I mean, it looks awesome even in emulation and with upscaled graphics, which is something that we know that doesn't go very well with a lot of games, especially 3D games. This one looks absolutely amazing, and it's
so
just
awesome.
It's another one of those stepping stones for the Mario series, and definitely an iconic one, but definitely not the only iconic title on the N64, because there's a lot of them that we can talk about.
Surely a lot, yeah. No, but this game was awesome because you could roam the castle freely. You had several rooms. You had to unlock those rooms by getting stars on the other levels. You had 7 stars in each level. And I clearly remember the first time I played this game, how awesome it was to climb the mountain on the first level and have the big bomb boss, the mustached one, and you just grab him and throw him. It was so awesome. It was so cool.
Which comes to something that I heard about playing this game, which was some people actually complained about the control mechanics, that they didn't age well, like playing today, and even back then they were slightly difficult.
I have to disagree on that. Actually the N64 controller was quite peculiar at the time. If you remember, it would look like a small trident, and it had the analog on that third leg of the controller, and it controlled so well.
The analog stick of that controller was placed in a really weird position. I mean, not anything that we're used to see right now, that is vastly inspired on the PlayStation controllers, which had the analog sticks. But anyways, it still remains a great console in history, and
an awesome controller.
Will surely bring some other games for us to talk about here.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot right away to the game that I'm going to talk about, and this one, well, I mean, obviously we couldn't really go over without talking about the PC game. Yeah, it's not a point and click. Sorry to disappoint you guys. There's not going to be any point and clicks today.
No pointing and no clicking.
Yeah,
just watching.
Although I always feel like a little bit, like having cold turkey symptoms because I really need to talk about point and clicks. But who knows? Next episode maybe, or maybe in 2 episodes, we never know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to talk about Links, the Challenge of Golf from 1999. This was released for PC and it was developed by Access Software and published by US Gold in the European Union. So I mean, this was back in my early 386 days, or the days of my 386 machine. And oh boy, I mean, I never really noticed, or I never really actually think that I would like golf games. I mean, I gotta be honest that for me, the thing about this game was, hitting the ball and getting as close to green as best as I could on the first hit and eventually landed in the hole. So, but, as far as the terms of par, bogey, birdie, I had literally no idea what they were talking about. I mean, the knowledge of English was very limited back then. So, and I had no idea on rules of golf. Despite that the game is actually quite popular in our country today, I wasn't really much into it because the main sport in Portugal has always been football and still is. So, but what can we say? I could say that it was ignorantly fun. That's what I can say about it. The game originally released in PC in 1990, but also had an Amiga release in 1992, as well as a Sega CD1 in 1994. The game is in fact the successor to a game called Leaderboard Golf that was Leaderboard Golf, actually this is the name, that was released in 1986 for the Commodore 64 by the same developer. It features one course called the Torrey Pines South Course. However, in the PC version alone, you could actually buy several add-on discs to add more courses to make them available to play. These courses were all created with the help of photos and videos to make them as close experience to the real ones as possible. There's not a whole lot to talk about this game because, well, this title is as exciting as a golf game itself. It's a golf game, so some might consider it the most boring game of the world, and I hope I'm not offending any golf fans here, but it's not exactly a game that is reeled with emotion, and although it has some excellent plays though, but you got to take it to that.
There was a fantastic golf game on the arcades called Neo Turf Masters. We have to talk about that one someday.
I know about that game,
so
but
awesome.
I think that game's on the arcades. They actually brought some element of fun to the game, and this was actually simulation only. So Links, the Challenge of Golf, was a simulation, and it actually was praised as being a great simulation, but we'll talk about that later on. But as I was saying, it was definitely praised by the realism, where the influence of wind and pitch inclinations, for example, did add some challenge to the gameplay, and as a golf game should. However, it was noted that it would require some really powerful computers to run. There was some reports and some critics that said that the Amiga version reported that whenever the ball was shot and moved to another location, then the scenario would have to be all rendered according to the position of the new position of the ball. And some Amiga users were actually reporting that it could take up to 2 minutes to actually load the whole screen and be able to take a shot again. So you can see how much annoying that could be if you have to imagine it's like playing a game that you have to make a play and then wait like 2 or 3 minutes for the next play to be available. It's kind of like Laser Squad but on slow motion. It could be something like that. Last but not the least, it had a great reception. And it was very, very positive. Aside from these technical issues that the game had, it was classified by many magazine critics and game reviewers and so on as one of the best golf experiences of the 90s in home computers. This game actually had like several other releases. After this one, there was a Lynx 386 Pro, if I'm not mistaken, which was also a great game, and it basically countered the issues that the first version had with much better graphics that were now properly rendered with, and not just no color or no texture flat surfaces like it was in this version, which was the first one for in the 16-bit era, let's say. So definitely one of those good memories that I had. but unfortunately not available in any digital platform that I'm aware of. So I guess if you want to play this game, you would have to, scour the internet for it. But it's the same experience as, for
Google.
example, playing the first flight simulator games. They were very basic, but you can see, and this is actually good to understand how game mechanics here actually developed from as early as 1986 with the first version, 1990, and then further on during the 90s, and how this game developed as a sports game.
Actually the Amiga version was the most realistic one, because when it took 2 minutes to load where the ball landed, it was the 2 minutes it took for you to walk there. This was realism at its best.
I know you're trying to put some silver lining here as if it was really good, but no, man, that's unacceptable. Although I guess that for the time, today waiting 2 minutes for something is already an eternity. But when you had to wait 5 to 7 minutes for a Spectrum tape to load, I guess that 2 minutes on a computer like this was not really much of a deal.
No,
but,
it wasn't.
It is what it is. So what do you have for us today next?
Well, I'm gonna stick to the N64.
Okay.
Surprise. And I'm going to bring a platformer again. This time I'm going forward 2 years to 1998, and I'm gonna talk about another iconic N64 game from Rare called Banjo-Kazooie. Now this was awesome. Well, the premise of this game was quite simple. You had your sister, Tootie, that was kidnapped by the witch Gruntilda, that just wanted to be the prettiest in the land. Sounds familiar?
Yep,
yeah, really.
Very much.
And she just kidnaps her to steal her beauty. And you just go on a quest to save her. You, Banjo, and your friend in your backpack, Kazooie, the bird. But you actually had a great fun game with a lot of different mechanics, because you could use Banjo or you could use Kazooie, and you could actually transform into several things. And this game was quite different from everything else, and it picked up the Mario 64 formula, and it just created a completely different and fun game where you had to pick up the jigsaw puzzles, unlock each level that came next, and just move on till you get to Gruntilda and just saved your sister. This is the gist of it. I'm not going to go into details because I want everyone to play this one. You can easily grab this one. Guess where? Just subscribe to Game Pass. It's there. Play this one. It's a gem. Yeah. You have the first one and the second one there. It's awesome.
I saw that available, and definitely it's gonna be on my playlist for the next few days.
It's so awesome.
And you would be surprised that I've actually never played Banjo-Kazooie on an original system at all. It was all on emulation. And yeah, sadly. You already know, I had no console, so I remember back in the early days, not the early days, but the late 90s, recurring to a lot of emulation, like the early days of emulation. For example, Bleem, the emulator for PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
I remember actually
the one built-in assembly that had an awesome compatibility that was specific for each game, because they sold it. Yeah.
It was a huge market, and that emulator, if it had been really developed, it would have been really good. But then Sony probably started finding out that if people emulate this, they won't buy consoles. And and we came to the days that we have today.
I remember when they actually launched Bleem to play PlayStation games on the Dreamcast.
Bleem was actually a paid emulator. It was,
and they sold it on a game-by-game basis on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I think it was a great project. Unfortunately, it was not developed at that time. But today we have very good projects, like RetroArch and stuff like that count
it a lot easier.
The development of and help us today still playing like a lot of these games that we really like.
And seriously, guys, grab Game Pass and play Banjo-Kazooie. This is a must-play game. Seriously.
We're not affiliated with Microsoft in any sense. But I myself have to recommend the Game Pass, because it not only gives us the opportunity to play some newer games, but it also has some of these things coming up, which is very, very good to see. And obviously, as I said before, avoids the hassle of having to go through pirated versions, less optimal versions that are not very well kept and stuff like that, and they don't run that well. But anyways, I think we're gonna close down today with a magic carpet ride, as I said in the beginning. And but no, wait, it's not Aladdin. It's not Aladdin. So the game I'm going to be talking about is Magic Carpet from 1994, and this was also for the PC. And this was developed by the one and only Bullfrog Software and published by Electronic Arts.
I can tell you that I played that game for the first time on a floppy disk that came with PC format.
You probably played the demo.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how many floppy disks the game was, but the game was quite complex, so I wouldn't believe that it would be a floppy disk. It would need a lot of floppy disks.
Yeah, I think I never played the full game, I just played the demo.
Yeah. So I guess that still today we know about some of the great titles that Bullfrog brought us, and not 1 year even after the release of the acclaimed game Syndicate, which I played many hours, it came Magic Carpet. So Magic Carpet is a 3D flying first-person shooter, so this is quite complicated, where we take the character of an apprentice wizard that will use his magic carpet to fly across the sea, the land, and some mountains to collect mana. So mana, as we know, is the essence of wizards that provides the power to cast spells. And initially this mana was beneficial to all of them, and when they discovered it, but as stories like this dictate more often than not, some wizards started using mana for their own nefarious purposes, and thus the world came to a corruption. So now, with the world set in complete unbalance, it's the job of this young wizard to collect all this mana and restore the equilibrium. While collecting this essence, the player will have to carry it back to their castle that will further develop and build, while at the same time we have to defend it from enemies that attack. So it was quite a simple purpose. I mean, we were flying around with the carpet, collect the mana, kill the enemies and stuff like that. It was not that complicated. The game had 50 levels initially, and it also had 25 more in an expansion pack that was called the Eden Worlds that came 1 year later. Now, despite that this game wasn't such a sales hit, and quite honestly, this is quite an obscure game of Bullfrog, which is unlikely because of their other titles, because you have Syndicate, you have Team Hospital, you had Populous, so many
Keeper.
Great games that... Sorry?
Dungeon Keeper.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, there's many titles from Bullfrog, but this one I think could be one of those that are very obscure. What this game had in particular was that it was available to be played in one of the first ever VR headsets that available, that was called the Forte VFX1 headgear. Now, you gotta know that VR back then was just, a pair of glasses with red and cyan colors, okay? But I have an interesting story with those glasses. I remember watching The Nightmare on Elm Street 6 on the theaters back then, and the final part of this movie, when actually Maggie is put asleep and goes inside the head of Freddy Krueger, this last part of the movie is actually in 3D. And I remember back in the movie, they would stop it and say, "Please put your glasses on." And this was obviously it was not cyan and red. I think it was more blue and red than anything else. But then, it was just amazing to watch a movie like that. And this was the same system used here. So I can only imagine what it would have been to have such technology at home. However, this wasn't available for the common folk. I mean, you would have to have really deep pockets to own a VR headset like this.
Yeah.
So, great experience. I love the game. I think that if you really want like a shooter, or let's say a first-person shooter that involves flying, that is not as limited, for example, as Descent, which we talked about quite recently. This is more of an open world kind of, although it's not really open world as per se, but each world was different, and each one of these worlds we could actually move around freely, three-dimensionally, with the exception that we could not roll and we could not hit the ground. Actually, if you would hit the ground, it would just lift immediately back up. So
you could.
There was not really that problem.
If you rolled on your share, you would basically hit the ground, but not in the game.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, because doing a roll, like do a barrel roll, like in Star Fox.
Yeah, if you
doing
got
it
the
on a magic carpet,
it wouldn't be very healthy.
I don't think it would work. Good news about this, guys, is that both this game, the first one, the Magic Carpet, and the Magic Carpet 2, the Netherworlds, are on sale on GOG right now with 77% off, and they just cost €1 each. So guys, I mean, unmissable. The first version of the game they have there is the Magic Carpet Plus, which actually it's not a remaster, but it's like an improved version where you can actually use higher resolutions and have much better graphics than the usual, 600 by 480 that we had back then, or 320 by 400, something like that. So by 400 was it? No, 320 by 200. Don't remember the resolutions from back then. Anyways, doesn't matter. Great game, great experience, guys, and you can actually try it because it's one of those very, very good ones that you should give it a go. And this was quite fun for me, and took me a lot of hours to actually go through all the 50 levels by myself.
Yeah. And by the way, DJ, don't forget, let's remind everyone, just come closer, just leave a like. It helps. Okay, subscribe to the channel. There's always a new couch every week with a lot of stupidity. Yeah, it's us, basically. So this is not going to be as smart as it should be.
Stupidity is our middle name. So guys, don't forget, as we always say, leave a like if you like, leave a dislike if you didn't like, consider subscribing the channel. We hope to hear, why are you laughing? I'm trying to finish this decently, please.
Yeah, let's make this serious. Like,
yeah. Let's make this serious. Like, nobody says anything like a golf game. So thank you very much for coming. We wish you a very nice week, and hopefully we'll be able to see you on the next Couchisode next week. My name is DJ, and I'm signing out. Game on.
And I am Blade. I'm signing out, and game on.
See you guys. See you next week.
See ya.